3. Unit 904 is paid up. Hook. We auction storage units when tenants stop paying. 904 never missed. The tenant died in 1998. I manage a storage facility off the highway where people leave what they can't bear to throw out and can't stand to see. We cut locks, tape lots, and auction units when the bills lapse. It's legal, dull, and heartbreaking in small, ordinary ways. Except for Unit 904. It's an end unit near the back. Concrete, sweating in summer, door dented from a long-ago fender bender. The ledger shows it's been rented by a man named Amos Quaid since November 1993. He paid cash until 1998. Then he switched to a money order that arrived like church bells, same day every month, steady, unremarkable, blessed. The note line on each read, "For unit, for safekeeping." The address they mailed from never matched. Sometimes Florida, sometimes a town 2 miles over that didn't have a post office. Amos died in 98. A cousin came by with a death certificate and a box of cheap donuts and asked if the unit had anything worth splitting. I checked the ledger, tapped the line, and said, "He's paid through December." The cousin took a donut and left. December came and went. The money order arrived again, every month since. I don't open paid units. That's the rule and the comfort. You don't pry the lid off other people's past. But last winter, the camera over the back row started missing frames between 2 and 2:07 a.m. and only in front of 9:04. The motion sensor lights in the lane, they're burned out twice as fast as the others. At 1:59:59, the footage showed an empty concrete lane. At 2:08:00, there would be a smear of wet footprints that didn't go anywhere. In February, a check came instead of a money order. It was signed in a hand that had forgotten how to be steady. A Quaid. The memo line read, "For unit, for safekeeping. I won't be able to continue. Thank you." I printed the memo and taped it in the ledger, because you keep things like that. The little human notes that prove the world touches itself. The following month, when no payment came, I wrote "send notice" on a sticky and stuck it to my screen. At 1:58 that night, on a whim or a dare, I walked to 9:04 with a flashlight. The lane smelled like wet cardboard and old dust. The concrete radiated cold, as if it remembered a lake. I put my palm to the roll-up door. The metal hummed like a telephone receiver held to a storm. "Mr. Quaid?" I said, because my mother raised me with good habits and because the door felt less like a door and more like a mouth that wanted to be addressed politely. "We got your note." The overhead light snapped on, then off, then on. It stayed on. The third time, like a decision. I looked up into the camera lens, and for the first time in months, the little red recording lead burned steady. The lock on 9:04 was not the one we issued. It was older, brass gone green in the seams. Worn faintly into the front were letters that had been polished nearly smooth. Safe. The next morning, an envelope sat on the office mat inside the locked door. No stamp, full of cash. Bills straight from a bank wrapper and others so soft they felt like cloth. No note. I paged through and felt the itch in my palms that means you're touching something you shouldn't, like a wedding ring you found in a gutter. It was exactly 3 months' rent. I didn't log it. I don't know why. I put it in the deposit bag and told myself someone with a key and a soft spot had taken care of something they didn't want to explain. In April, a tornado watch rolled through. We have a checklist for that. Secure doors, email tenants, don't be a hero. At 2:03 a.m., the sirens yawned awake and the sky went bruise green. I drove the cart down the lanes and checked the handles. At 9:04, the lock was warm to the touch, like someone on the other side was breathing through it. I clicked my tongue against my teeth. "If you're in there," I said, "this isn't a shelter." The roll-up door buckled inward at the bottom 1/4 of an inch and released, a movement so slight I could have called it wind. The wind was behind me. I crouched and put my cheek near the concrete. I don't know why. I smelled rain, wet cedar, the faint sugar rot of paper that has learned a lifetime, and then forgotten it. A trickle of water slid out under the door and ran around my shoe like it had been taught manners. In the water, a photo floated, a Polaroid blown, washed out, edges furred. I pinched it and held it to the dome light. It showed a child in a yellow slicker under a sky the color of old nickels, holding a jar with a light in it. Behind him, a man with a beard bent to show where to stand. The child was Amos, if the ledger photo had been allowed to run backward. In the corner of the frame, in ink that had bled, someone had written, "For safekeeping." When the storm passed, the camera over 904 replayed its missing minutes as if it had never failed. The footage showed me kneeling. It did not show my hand reaching for the photo. It showed the lane empty and a dark rectangle where my body should have been, like the camera refused to remember. I mailed a certified letter to the address on file because rules are rafts, and I am a small person in a big flood. It came back stamped undeliverable, the ink sharp as a fresh cut. The following week, a new money order arrived, dated 1998. The paper yellowed at the edges. "We don't open paid units." That's still true. But once a month at 2:07 a.m., I walk the lane with a flashlight, and if the concrete is wet at the threshold, I say, "Good evening, Mr. Quaid." I'll keep it safe. The camera blink never shows me. It shows a rectangle where a person should be, and crossing the frame, a child in a yellow slicker, jar in hand, learning where to stand.